Hi there, welcome back to another Lazy Question show where we kind of pick a question that you might have and try to answer you in an entire live stream, right? So if you are new to the show, we show up here each Sunday at 10 a.m. and that is Pennsylvania in the United States time. So we're gonna start soon, but before I like to start reading some of your comments, asking you how are you doing today, and also I like to say thank you to some folks for supporting the show, right? These folks on my screen are people who believe in what I do, so they support me as a YouTube member or as a Patreon. Thank you very much, guys, for your support. All right, so let me jump to the chat now to start reading some of your comments before we start today's presentation with 5 people connected live. That's great. I'm very excited because 5 folks are with me today live. We're gonna learn this awesome blog today. We're gonna create this awesome blog that is gonna help you save some time, right, working in AutoCAD. So our friend Francis is on the chat. Hi Francis, thank you for being here with me today, with us live, right? And Francis says, waiting last week I didn't attend, but today I'm here. Thank you, Francis, for being here with me, with us, trying to learn something new in AutoCAD, right? So I can tell that you care about your time, right? You want to find different ways to be more productive in AutoCAD, save some time, and that's why we are here today. Thank you, Francis. And let me start getting ready over here on my screen. And as always, I like to make this live stream interactive, so if you have questions during my presentation, you can stop me at any moment and I'll be able to read your question and talk about it, right? All right, so let's start. All right. Let me get ready over here on my second screen so we can start today's presentation. Okay. This is a block that you are struggling with, like Christian, who said, can you make a tutorial for a 2-leaf door? I tried doing it myself, but I'm having problem with the stretch and wipeout thing. So, welcome again to the Lazy Question Show, and let me help you out. So to start, one of the first problems that you might have with this 2-leaf door is whenever you want to change the width or the size of this door, right? For instance, I have a opening of 5 feet right here and my door is 6 feet door. So the problem that we will have is, of course, I'll have to explode this block, right, to kind of make it smaller, and trying to stretch it, right? So I'm gonna turn this off, and I'm gonna stretch this door like so to make it smaller, right? From this point, I'm gonna stretch it about 6 inches, and then of course I'll have to mirror it and kind of do it this way. But you can see that even if I do that, I'll have to resize my door swing for this new size door. So again, you can see all of the trouble that you might face trying to change the width of this 2-leaf door. So in order to avoid all of these steps, what we can do with our block is, of course, after right clicking on it and going to the block editor, we can simply add a stretch action, right? And the way I can do it is by first adding a parameter from my block authoring palette. If you are not seeing it, you can open it from the ribbon. And again, the linear parameter is the one that we will need first. So I'm gonna specify my linear parameter from this point, and I'm gonna go all the way up to my door width like so, and finally click like that. So there is an exclamation mark, but simply means that this parameter is needs an action, and that's what we're gonna add. But before, I need to select my linear parameter and go to my properties and change the number of grips to 1, because right now I have 2 grips, and that's gonna bring up problems. I only need 1, so that's what I'll do, and I'm ready to add my stretch action. So the way I'm gonna add it is following the instructions on my command line. I'm gonna select my linear parameter, I'm gonna select my point, which will be over here on the grid, on the stretch grid, and then of course it's asking to select a corner of frame. My corner of frame would be from here all the way up here, and my object to stretch would be, of course, my door like so, as well as this part of my door, and press enter. So all I did was add a stretch action again to try to quickly change sizes for my 2-leaf door, and let's quickly test it, right, to see if there are any problems. So when I stretch this, I can see that the door is stretching, but not the way that we want, right? Which is stretching this size as well as changing the size, right? Because if we want to change the width of our door, this part of my door supposed to also increase, right? So let's quickly fix that. But before, I think we have some comments on the chat. Let me read them. And it's our friend Francis. Francis says, how to create a front elevation of window block dynamically, mostly the middle frames to stretch also. Francis, that's such a great question, and let me tell you that we already created that block. So we already did a video about it, and let me see if I can't oops, I think I've been showing the entire time. Let's see over here. I think we've been showing the entire time this message over here. So let me see. All right, let me go jump to here. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I think I've been explaining, showing the question all the time, so I'm gonna have to undo what I just did. So sorry about that. So I'm gonna undo everything and simply all right. Okay, so let me undo everything. All right. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I'm gonna start again with 7 people live. So let me read some of your comments in order to proceed. And Francis says, yeah, so we have that video or blog for you already, Francis. We did that in the past. So let me see if I can quickly find it, right? So yeah, let's see. All right, Francis. So the block that you need, that you are asking for, is this one right here. So this is the video that you need, Francis. Again, that's a dynamic block for a elevation window that then dynamically stretch. So yeah, you can watch that video later, Francis. So let's keep moving. We have also Felicia Hernández on the chat. Good morning, Lazy Arquitecto. Bien con las transmisiones en vivo. Bendiciones. Good morning, Felicia. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. For people who don't know, Spanish is my second language, so that's why I also speak Spanish. All right, so let's keep moving. Let's keep moving again with today's presentation. All right, so let me go over here and make sure that my audio is working correctly, right? So let's see that my audio is working. Yep. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so let's start now with today's presentation. And as always, you can stop me at any time with your questions. All right. So I think we have a comment before we proceed. Let me read that comment right now. Let's see. It's our friend Drakate. Hi Drakate, thank you for being here. Says, morning, I have a question. Whenever I plot with MV, it shows the border while printing it. Is there a way to solve that? Are you asking to hide the border of a viewport? That, I think, was your question, Drakate. So let me see if I have a viewport here. Okay. So yeah, so the way to hide or turn off the borders of a viewport is, of course, if you have a layer called depth points or depth point, you can place your viewport on that layer. And the depth points layer, what it does is simply, if you go to a layer, to your layer palette, right? If you open your layer palette and inspect what the depth point layer is simply, you can see over here that the print icon is kind of showing very light. So that means the depth point layer is not gonna print, it's not gonna show up. Or you can also check this print, and that way you will be able to not show your viewport border, right? So hopefully that will help you, my friend. And let's quickly move to our presentation. Drakate. All right, so let's keep moving. Okay, so one of the first problems that we will have with this block is whenever we want to change the width of this 2-leaf door, right? For example, I have a 5 feet opening right here, but my door is 6 feet. So if I want to make this fit for this wall, I'll have to explode my block. You know, I'll have to stretch my door like so and make it, let me turn off this, and of course stretch it down about 6 inches, so that way I can mirror this and have my door, right? But you can see also immediately that I will have to change the size of my arc, or in this case my door swing, and so on. So to avoid all of these headaches, what we can do is add some actions and parameters to our door block, right? After right clicking on it and going to the block editor, I can add a parameter called linear, and this way when I follow the instructions, right, that says specify start point, I want my start point to be here and then my end point to be on the other side of my door, and place it like so. So we'll have this exclamation mark simply means that this parameter needs an action, and the action that we need is the stretch, of course. But before we added it, we want to select our linear parameter and change the number of grips from 2 to 1, because we don't need this other grip on this side. So that's what I'm gonna do, and then I will be ready to add my stretch action. So the way I'm gonna add it is following the instructions again from the command line, and I'm gonna select this linear parameter. Next, what I'll do is select my associated point, which be over here, and then my corner for the stretch or stretch frame, and would be from here to here. And then the objects to stretch would be, of course, my door, as well as my grid over here, and I'll press enter. So once I do a quick test, right, to see if whether this is working or not, I will see that indeed my door is stretching, but not the way that we want, right? Whenever we want to change the door width, this means I'll also need this door to increase, right, accordingly. So that's what we're gonna solve. So let's close the test block, and the way I'm gonna solve it is by adding another stretch action. So let's do that, and of course I'm gonna select the same parameter, the same associated point, and for the frame or stretch frame, now I want to stretch only this part of my door. So that's what I'll do. I stretch like so, and then the objects would be, of course, my door, like so. So once I press enter and test the block again, let's see what will happen, right? And as you can see, something weird is happening where everything is stretching in to the right direction, right? My door as well as this part of my door. So to solve that issue, what we can do is select our stretch for that specific part of my door, and if we go to the properties, we will have an angle offset. So the angle that it's here for this door is not going to be the same as this other stretch, right? So the angle for this would be 135. So that's what I'll add, 135. And then if we quickly test this, we will see that now the direction of our stretch is what we want now, right? However, there's still a problem. The problem is that when we change the size of our door, this part of the door is stretching, but way too much. So in order to solve that problem, what we can do is change the distance multiplier for our stretch action, again from the properties. So there is an option over here, and if we set that at 2.5, which is what we want, every time we want to stretch in the right direction, we want our door, this part of our door, to stretch only halfway. So once we test this, we will see that indeed now our door is stretching much better. So all of these steps that we did for this right side or right lift of our door, we can also do it in the same way for this other side, right? So let's quickly do that. Again, adding an stretch action, and then selecting our parameter, selecting our grip, and then for the frame, of course, would be different, would be over here, and the objects will be different also, will be only this door. And of course we will have a new action right here, and we can change some of its properties, such as the distance multiplier that we did before, 0.5, and the angle, of course, won't be 135 in this case. The angle would be 45 because we want to stretch in this direction, right? So let's add that angle 45, and let's quickly test our door block. So let's stretch it, and as we can see, it's working better now. However, we still have a problem, and the problem is now the door swing, right? Or these arcs right here, they are not adjusting accordingly. So let's quickly fix that, and the way we're gonna do it is adding a new action, in this case the scale action. So let's do that. A scale. Let's select our same parameter, and let's select our objects. Our objects in this case would be these two arcs, and I'll press enter. So let's quickly test this to see that whether this is working or not. And as you can see, our door now is working beautifully. Now, to go back to the next problem that you might be having as well as Christian, right? Christian, the person who asked for this blog, is, so let me close this blog, is like the wipeout thing, right? So the wipeout thing, for instance, let me quickly undo this. So the wipeout thing is basically a way to avoid the problem of, let's say I need another door over here, right? So I'm gonna copy this door to the side, and I will have to create a couple of lines here, and then go ahead and trim my wall like so, line by line, and so on. So in order to go to avoid all of this trouble, right, we can use a wipeout. A wipeout is simply a way to hide objects, so that way we don't have to trim anything, right, any walls. So let's quickly do that, and the way we're gonna do it is, of course, first adding a parameter, a linear parameter, the same way that we added over here. So I'm gonna select, in this case, this point, and then this other point, the end of my door hinge, like so. So we already know what an exclamation mark means. It needs an action, right? So I'm gonna add an action, and would be, of course, the stretch action. So I'm gonna select my parameter, in this case not this parameter, but for the hinge of the door, so like so. But I'm gonna cancel this because do you remember the step that we are missing here? We have two grips and we only need one. So let's quickly fix that. So I'm gonna select one grip, and then I'm ready to add the stretch action. And then, so I'm gonna add the stretch action, selecting my parameter, and of course my grip would be here. And then my frame for the stretch would be all of this, like so. And then, of course, I can select the objects to be stretched. My object to be stretched would be this part, like so. And I will deselect my parameter holding shift on my keyboard to avoid any conflicts with this other parameter. So I only want to select this part of my parameter. I'll press enter, and all we did, if we go and test this block, is simply add a stretch in this direction. However, we can see we have a problem. We forgot to select this part of our hinge. So let's quickly fix that by selecting our stretch, right clicking and saying modify selection set. And this way it's gonna ask me for my stretch frame. I want the same stretch frame, so I'm gonna simply press enter to accept the previous stretch frame. And then I can I want to make sure that the add option is selected here, and then I can add this object right here, and of course deselecting the this parameter with holding the shift on my keyboard, and that way when I test this my hinges will be ready to go. Now, as you can see, we have another problem over here. which is that this frame, this grip, it's also stretching, and we don't want that, right? We want this grip to stay right here. So let's see how we can fix this. And the way I'm gonna do it is, of course, selecting my stretch over here, and you can see when I click on it that it's selecting this object as well as this object right here, but we don't want that. So the way I'm gonna do it is right clicking and again modify selection set. In this case, I'm gonna press enter to accept the frame, and then I'm gonna click remove. So once I do that, I can select this, right, this linear parameter, this grip, and I'm gonna press enter. So this should solve the problem, but let's quickly test it. And as you can see, our grip is now staying where it's supposed to be. All right, so let's finally add the wipeout. But before we add the wipeout, let me stop and go to the chat to see if you have any questions to what we did so far. So let me see. Okay, our friend Dracate says, sure, thanks a lot. No problem, Dracate. I think you are still referring to the elevation window block, right? Video. Dracate says, Francis says, place the viewport in depth points layer because by default, any element placed under depth points will not show on printing. That's right, Francis, and that's what I did show Dracate also. So yeah, so good recommendation by Francis right there. Okay, so let's keep moving. If there are no questions till this point, let's wrap this up. All right, let's continue. So to add the wipeout, right, we added this linear parameter in order to add a wipeout, right? A wipeout that can change sizes according to the wall size, right, or wall thickness. So I'm gonna draw a rectangle like so, and simply go and draw my rectangle from this point all the way up to here, like so. So then I can use the wipeout command, and I can say specify, I can use the polyline option, and I can simply select my rectangle, and with the erase button, sure, I want to erase. So now when we select this is not a rectangle anymore, but this is a wipeout that simply is using to hide things behind, right? So right now it's even hiding this part of my door. We don't want that. So what we can do is select our wipeout and use the draw order command and send it to the back, like so. All right. Okay. So now that we added a wipeout, we need to add the wipeout to our existing stretch actions, right? Because if we don't do that, let me go and test this block to see what will happen, right? If we don't add our wipeout, you can see that the stretch action is not associated with this wipeout. So if we stretch also in this direction, again, our wipeout is not working correctly. So in order to solve that, we already know how to fix that. I'm gonna select this stretch action, and I'm gonna right click and say modify selection set, all right? And it's asking me for my corner of stretch, I want to keep the same, so I'm gonna press enter. And then for my objects, I want to make sure the add option is selected, and then I can select my wipeout and press enter. I have to do the same steps for the other stretch, which is this one right here. So I'm gonna right click, modify selection set, and say for the stretch frame I want to be the same, so I'll press enter and then make sure add is selected, and I'm gonna select my wipeout and press enter. So all we did again was that when we stretch now, the wipeout will be associated with the two stretch actions, and that's what we want. Right, so of course we can hide this wipeout, the borders, right, with the wipeout frame and so on. But before we do that, what I like to do is go ahead and increase the size of my wipeout a tiny bit in each direction, so something like 0.5. So this way, when I do this, I will avoid any glitch problems from AutoCAD. So 0.5. So this way, again, sometimes when you have a wall and the wipeout it's exactly on top of that wall or that line, sometimes it will still show the wall. So that's why I like to do this, kind of stretch it a tiny bit on each side of my wipeout. And now I can simply turn the wipeout frame off, right, with the 0 option, and that way nothing is there and it will help me hide my wall. But before we proceed, we have some comments on the chat that I'd like to read, and it's our friend Blitz. Blitz says, hello Blitz, I think you're new to the live streams, but that's great that more folks are finding our live streams. So that's because either YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn is recommending our live stream, so that's great. Blitz says, how are you? I'm great, Blitz. Hope you're doing good too. Thank you for joining us to this live stream. We show up here, for people who don't know, each Sunday at 10 a.m. So yeah, if you want to join us, you'll find us here either on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, right, with these live streams. So right, so let's keep moving to wrap this up. Right, so now that we added a wipeout, as our friend Christian was asking for, and again I show you why we need this in order to avoid trimming walls. So we will have still a last issue with this block. If we test this block, we will see that everything is working nicely, of course, the wipeout, the doors, and so on. But there is a big issue still, and the issue is that this door, it's like an unlimited door. You can see if I go smaller than this, you'll have something weird like that. So there is no limits for this door right now, and we don't want that. We want to add some standard sizes for this door width, as well as the door hinge and so on. So a way to solve this problem is by, again, selecting our linear parameter, and under the property option we will have different ways to set some default values, some minimum distance, and so on. This is again a personal preference. You can pick increments or so on, but for the wall width or the hinge of the door, I'm gonna set a distance maximum of, you know, a door width, how wide can be a door, a wall, right? So can be something like 1'6" maybe, or 2 feet. I'm gonna say 1'6". So that way, when I stretch this door, right, when I stretch this hinge of the door, I will only be able to do it till 1'6", and that's what I want, right? I don't want unlimited. And in the same way, I can set a minimum distance, so that way I don't go and stretch this all the way to 1 inch or whatever. So I'm gonna select my linear parameter and set a distance minimum of, you know, a regular wall can be 4 inches, so I'm gonna say 4, and that way I restrict some of these parameters for this door, right? The same way for the door width, what I can do is going over here and set some parameters. For this one, I'm not gonna pick the minimum or maximum. What I'm gonna do is type a list, and this way I can select the distance value and start adding some door width, right? And some of the standards, you know, might be 4 feet, 5 feet, 8 feet, and so on. So that's all up to you. You can do your research and just input the standard sizes for double doors. So, but once you do that, you will see that when we test this block, right, we will have not unlimited options, but only the options that we specify, right? So that's the last step that I wanted to do, and it's time to test this block, right, to see if indeed it works nicely or not. So I'm gonna close and save the changes, of course, to my door, right, like so. And then once I have that door, I can go ahead and copy and test it, right, over here on this. So let's say I want to add a door right here, so I can simply paste my, oops. So I'm having a problem right here because the name, I already have a block with the same name. So if you select this block, you can see that this block is called lazy double door, and my dynamic block that we just created is also that it also have the same name. So that's an issue, and I'm gonna quickly resolve this issue by renaming this block. So I'm gonna rename this block over here in this drawing. So let me find it. It's right here, lazy double door. So I'm gonna call it door or static door, whatever, just to be able to copy my dynamic door over here and test it. So now, as you can see, it's right here. Now we're still seeing this wipeout frame is because, again, we forgot to turn the wipeout frame on this drawing, right? So we can set it to 0, and that way we will now be able to see the wipeout. So over here, let's say I want to add a door right there. I can simply stretch this as needed, and I can simply change the sizes of my door. For instance, 5 feet is right there, and boom, we will have our block door ready to go. If we want to move it, not a problem. The door will adjust accordingly. All right, so thank you, Christian, for your request. I think that was a very helpful way to use a two-leaf door in AutoCAD. And let me jump to the chat now. Hopefully you guys found this block useful also, and hopefully you can implement it in your workflow, right, in AutoCAD. So let me jump to the chat before we wrap up today's live stream, and let's see if there are any questions so far. What do you think about this block? Do you think it's gonna save you some time? Yes or not? Let me know on the comments. Okay, so let's see if we have any questions before we wrap up today's live stream. Let's see. Our friend Rakate says, I've seen others who use multi-letter to change text automatically, like a drag down. How others do that? To change text automatically, like a drag down. I don't know. Are you referring to multi-letter? Yeah. We have a video about multi-letters, Arquitecto. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see over here. Give me 1 second. Okay. What is that one? So let's see. Multi-letters, right? Yeah, I'm sure we did a multi-letters video also. Let's see. I'll have to find it for you, Arquitecto. Maybe I'll pin it in this live stream, I'll find the video for you and pin it. But yeah, so there are ways to do that, Arquitecto, with multi-letters and so on. So dynamic blocks, multi-letters in AutoCAD are, a very useful and advanced feature that if we, use it appropriately, we can simplify our lives, right? We don't want to waste time in AutoCAD. So if we can facilitate that with blocks, multi-letters, and that's what we do here, right, in this show. But that's a great question, Arquitecto, how to use multi-letters to change text automatically. All right, let's see if we have more questions or comments before we finish this live stream and start thinking on our next live stream, right? On our next topic. What would you guys want to see? Would you want to see a new macro command, maybe another dynamic block, or what do you think? So let me know your thoughts. Or maybe a tutorial for beginners, maybe. Let's see. All right, I think if there are no comments, we're gonna stop right here. And as always, I'm gonna go and grab breakfast because I always finish these live streams very hungry. All right, folks, thank you for being here with me today. And hopefully you learned something new, something useful, right? Let's see, we have a comment. So before we finish, we have a comment. Drag cases. I've been thinking of a new macro command to offset walls in millimeters, but doesn't seem to work. To offset walls in millimeters. Yeah, Arquitecto. So if you want to expand on your question, and maybe send me an email or put it on any of our video comments, maybe we can pick it for another lazy question show, right? For an entire live stream. But of course, you'll have to give me more details, right, of what are you trying to achieve. And if you can, send me your drawing also, so that way we can do an entire live stream, right? Of course, this is not a guarantee that I'll pick your question, but if you explain it in more details, you'll have more chances. And of course, if I find it that is gonna be useful for more folks, right, definitely I'll pick your question. Alan Chinchilla says yes, macro command. So it looks like you guys enjoy the macro, the lazy macros, right? For people who don't know, maybe they are new. So what Alan is referring to is to our playlist lazy macros right here. So these are basically custom commands that we create, right? I like them because they are quick to create, they are easy to run, to activate, and they are very, very helpful, right? We can simplify, let's say, 5 tasks into a one single command macro, right? Let's say, just to give you an example, every time you send out drawings, you have to bind your drawings, you have to purge or clean your drawings, you have to zoom extends in your drawings, you have to save as or create a copy of your drawing, you have to add a current date to our drawing. So those 5 steps, we created a command macro or a lazy macro that you can perform these 5 steps with one single click. So that way you can save some time, right? So that's the idea of the lazy macros. We have more than 25 or something. So if you want to take a look at those, you can do that. All right, so I think we're going to stop right here. And so have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you here next Sunday at 10 a.m. right? Francis says this one definitely I'm going to implement it. It will save me a lot of time. Yeah, I'm Francis, I'm happy to hear that. All right, guys, have a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you here next Sunday.